Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the course Management Information Systems. Today we're going to continue with the same lecture, Chapter 5, Databases and Information Management. In the last lecture, we started off with explaining the databases. We started off with the hierarchy of data. What are the building blocks of the data? हमने देखा था that it was started from the character to the field to records and files and then databases. So these were the building blocks of the data. कि आपका जब जिस तरह कंप्यूटराइज्ड फॉर्म में जब डेटा स्टोर हो रहा है तो वो किस तरह की फॉर्म्स में स्टोर होगा. सबसे लोएस्ट लेवल के ऊपर वी हैड द कैरेक्टर, देन वी हैड द field, then we had the field was making up the records were making up files, and the files were making up the whole database. Then the most important thing that we saw in the previous lecture, कि आपके database create करने के लिए there were two very important aspects. Number one was the data management, and number two was data modeling. Data management was all about how the data is going to be managed in a computerized system. Either it's going to stay in a traditional file-based system, or you're going to use the database approach. So two approaches हमने देखे थी. The traditional approach, that was the file-based approach, and then the database approach. Traditional approach के different drawbacks थे, like it was causing data redundancy, that is the duplication of data, because the same data was stored in different locations, which in turn was causing data inconsistency, because अगर एक जगह पे data update कर रहे हैं तो दूसरी file was almost impossible to update, और ये भी हो सकता है कि आप वो update करना भूल जाते हैं. Secondly, it was creating problems of sharing because the data was in different locations, so sharing between different departments was not easy. So sharing of the files between different departments was not easy. And similarly, it was also creating other problems as well related to the data redundancy. Right, then we moved on towards the database approach, जिसमें हमने बोला था the database approach is all about organizing and managing data in a meaningful manner in one place. तो हमने वो जो different locations के ऊपर files store हुई हैं उन सबको combine करके एक central location के ऊपर डाल दिया, so that different kinds of different functional departments के जो application programs हैं या जो users हैं, they were accessing only one database, and that database was being managed by the database management system. So the key role of the system that was associated with the databases was the database management system. Right जी. Afterwards, we looked at a few advantages of the database management approach. अगर हमने database approach को use करना है तो उसके फायदे क्या क्या थे? The very first one being that there was no duplication of data. Then the data sharing was easy. There was reduced data inconsistency, which increased the data integrity. By data integrity, we meant that the value of the data was intact, और उसकी जो importance है वो intact रहती है. There was error-free data. And you were getting the error-free information as well. इसके अलावा it had higher security, and there were other advantages as well associated with the database approach. So the next thing that we did was the data modeling. Data modeling was all about how you're going to organize the data in the database. So there were two methods of doing that. Basically, it consists of two parts, defining the logical design and then defining the physical design. The logical design was all about defining what were the entities and what are the relationship between the entities. In other words, it was all about what are the files or what are the objects and what is the relationship between the different kinds of objects. So basically, let's just say that it's kind of a blueprint of actually creating a database. Afterwards, the physical design was sort of fine-tuning the logical design in a way that in terms of performance, in terms of cost reduction, in terms of utilizing the best storage devices, etc., etc. So इस किस्म की चीजें were sort of fine-tuning the logical design. So when we're talking about the logical design, उसमें हमने देखा था that आपके उसके लिए एक data model use करते हैं. And the data model was basically a graphical representation of how you're going to represent the entities and their relationships, and for that we were using the ER diagram or the entity relationship diagram. So the entity relationship diagram की मैंने एक example भी दी थी. We had a supplier as an entity, we had product as an entity, and then we defined a one-to-many relationship between the supplier and the product, which meant that one supplier could supply number of products and one product was only supplied by only one supplier. इसके अलावा we moved on to the different aspects of the relational database. So relational database was all about defining the database in the form of tables or in a tabular form. So आपके two-dimensional tables create होते हैं relational database में, and again each table represents an entity and then there is a relationship between those entities. Right, when we're talking about the relational databases, तो उसमें we looked at के relation database में हम data manipulation किस तरह कर सकते हैं, and that is with the help of selecting the data, joining the data, projecting the data, as well as linking different kinds of data. So we were linking different kinds of data with the help of a certain primary key. एक primary key जो एक table की है वो दूसरी table में foreign key बन जाती है, and with that we create a one-to-many relationship. So in manipulating the data, we saw that we could select different kinds of data from a relation database, we could project a certain kind of data, or we could join two tables and show the data of two tables at once, and we could also link the different kinds of data in the database. So selecting was basically eliminating the rows, projecting was basically eliminating the columns, and joining में we were combining two or more tables. So with the help of these manipulations, we were able to basically use the data for certain purposes जिसके लिए users को data use करना है. So the relational database is the one that is most widely used, and because it's more flexible and more innovative, and it allows people to get the right kind of information whatever they need. Right, today we're going to continue with the same chapter, the databases and information management, and we're going to talk about the database management system today and one of the database applications. Right, Ji. So the database management system is basically a group of programs that are used as an interface between the database and the different kinds of application programs or the users, and they're used to create, implement, use, and update a database. So basically the functions of database include organizing, managing, and accessing data in the database. So your databases basically make the physical database available for different kinds of logical views required by the users. So आपका physical database basically is actually जहाँ पे database के अंदर data store हो रहा है on the disk, but it gives different kinds of logical views to the users depending on what the user wants. Different kinds of databases are now. There's the single user data DBMS databases that are used for personal computers and that are meant for single users. ठीक है, उसकी example है MS Access, जिसके ऊपर अभी हम थोड़ा सा मैं करके भी आपको दिखाऊंगी. Then we have the FileMaker Pro and Microsoft InfoPass. Again, these are the examples of single user database management systems. Microsoft InfoPass gives you the ability to create different kinds of forms, और इसमें काफ़ी कुछ inbuilt होता है that you can readily use. इसके अलावा we have the multi-user database management systems that are used by large mainframe computers, and their purpose is that they can allow multiple users and allow hundreds of users to access the data from the DBMS. So they are powerful, expensive, and allow hundreds of people to access the data from the database. Examples इसके हैं Oracle है, Sybase है, and then we have DB2 by IBM. Then we have the Teradata database. These are examples of the database management systems that are used. They could be used on the personal computers, but they're meant for the mainframes and servers as well. Basically, ये उनके लिए बनाए गए हैं. Right. Now, when you're talking about the DBMS, so DBMS basically relates to kind of database you're being used. So if you're using a So if you're using a relational database, that means कि जो DBMS उसके साथ use हो रहा है, that is a relational DBMS. अगर आपके पास object-oriented database use हो रही है, तो DBMS that is used with it is an object-oriented database management system. Right जी. Then capabilities of database management system का मतलब है that it provides certain functions and it provides certain capabilities and tools for organizing, managing and accessing the data in the database. That means there are certain tools, there are certain capabilities in the database management system that define कि आपने organize किस तरह करना है data, उसको manage किस तरह करना है data को in the database, and how you're going to retrieve that data for use, or in terms of information कि आपने data तो डाला है लेकिन आप उसको जब information के तौर पे retrieve करेंगे from the database, how you're going to do that, what are the mechanisms for doing that. So और इन्हीं चीज़ों को डिफाइन करने के लिए, ऑर्गेनाइज करने के लिए, मैनेज करने के लिए, एक्सेस करने के लिए there are 3 different functions of the database that it provides you 3 different things. Number 1 is a data definition language. Data definition language means that it's basically a language, or it's a collection of instructions and commands that are used to define and describe data and relations in a specific database. So it's going to define कि आपका data कौन सा है and what is the relation between different kinds of objects, for example, different kinds of entities that are being used in the relational database. तो उसके अंदर relationship किस तरह बन रहा है, और इस सारे description को कि entities कौन सी हैं और उनके अंदर relationship क्या है, when you store this kind of description in the database, that is called a schema. So you use a certain kind of language to define that description or to define that schema. ठीक है जी. और ये जो language use हो रही है, that is called the data definition language. It basically describes the logical access paths and logical records in the database. कि एक object को retrieve करने का कौन सा path है and what are the logical records in that database. So there are different ways of describing this kind of schema. So लेकिन जब हम SQL या structured query language use करते हैं तो उसके लिए जो commands use होती हैं, that is simple as create. A create command is that is basically going to create your table or going to create that entity or object, and then there is a drop command that is going to delete that entry, and then we have the alter command that is going to update or make changes or modifications in that table or object or entity. Right जी. इसकी एक छोटी सी example आपके सामने यहाँ पे है. Here we have the command create. So what is create doing? It's creating a table called employees. So this is the name of the entity or it's the name of the table that is being created. अब हमने क्या कहा था, that it is basically defining and describing the data and also the relationship between the specific database. So जब वो data define कर रहा है तो table के बाद it has defined the fields in the table. So these mentioned here are the fields. That means has the ID, employee की ID क्या है, first name क्या है, last name क्या है, date of birth, and it's defining that it's an integer and it's the primary key. That means it is uniquely identified. The records in this table are going to be uniquely identified with the help of the primary key, which is the ID. And then it is in a numeric form. Integer means numeric form. This means that it is in a textual form, again textual form, and date of birth is in the data form of a date. So this is a small example of how the data definition language को जब हम use करते हैं, especially when you're using the SQL, तो वो आपके लिए एक schema को किस तरह define करेंगे, या एक object को किस तरह define करेंगे, या एक table को किस तरह define करेंगे. Right जी. Next, we move on to the other kind of function of the DBMS is that it provides a data dictionary. It provides the functionality of the data dictionary. Now what is a data dictionary? It's basically a detailed description of all data used in the database. So and all data means it not only contains information about the field that is being used, बट ऑल्सो कि उस फील्ड के अंदर जो डेटा टाइप है और उसकी बाकी सारी डिटेल है उसके उस बारे में भी इंफॉर्मेशन आपको प्रोवाइड करता है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इट हैज इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट द नेम ऑफ द डेटा आइटम, the range of the values that are being used, the type of data, the amount of storage that is needed, the notation of the person who updated it, किसने access किया, किसने update किया, users who can access it, a list of reports and that use the data item, as well as a number of pages that are being used. So यहाँ पे example हम एक देख लेते हैं. आपको छोटा सा डेटा डिक्शनरी की एग्जांपल दी हुई है. That means let's just separate this part. तो पहले हम नीचे वाले पार्ट को देख सकते हैं. The data element name was part number. So this was basically एक टेबल में, for example, this is the field, और field का हमने नाम रखा हुआ था part number, right जी. अब उसके बारे में सारी information है. Description क्या है? It's basically an inventory part number. Other name क्या है? इसका दूसरा नाम PTNO means part number, ये वाला भी हो सकता है. वैल्यू रेंज क्या है? इट कैन बी फ्रॉम 100 to 5000. जो भी इसकी वैल्यू, इसके अंदर हम फील्ड के अंदर जो भी वैल्यू एंटर करेंगे उसको वैल्यू रेंज ये. डेटा टाइप क्या है? अगेन न्यूमेरिक डेटा टाइप है, नंबर्स आ सकते हैं सिर्फ इसमें. पोजीशन क्या है? 4 पोजीशंस और कॉलम. दिस बेसिकली डिफाइंस के वो स्टोरेज लोकेशन कितना ले रहा है. इसके अलावा देयर इज अदर इंफॉर्मेशन दैट इज नॉट ओनली रिलेटेड टू द value that is going to be written in it, but also the relation के background information इसकी क्या है. That is कि ये field किसने बनाया था, किस date को बना था, what was the date it was created, right? It was approved by this person. Then इसका version number ये है and it consists of page 1 of 1. मतलब कि एक ही पेज के ऊपर ये information आ रही है, एक ही पेज के ऊपर ये data आ रहा है. So basically this is just an example of a data dictionary के आपका एक field के बारे में भी जो background information है, जो background data है, वो data dictionary में store हो रहा है, right जी. MS Access also provides you the functionality of a data dictionary. So basically when you're entering or creating the table in it, तो उसके साथ साथ वो आपको उसकी description भी पूछ रहा होता है, टेक्स्ट पूछ रहा होता है किस किस्म का है. एंड देन आल्सो you can also define the kind of values that can go into that, the value range that can go into that, if it's date और या जो भी जिस किस्म का भी value उसमें जानी है एक field के अंदर, that can also be defined. So that is all stored in the data dictionary. When I'm going to show you the MS Access example, तो साथ में मैं आपको ये भी दिखा दूंगी कि वो डेटा डिक्शनरी किस तरह शो कर रहे हैं. सो द बेसिक एडवांटेज ऑफ डेटा डिक्शनरी इज दैट एक तो ये कि इट बिकम्स इजियर टू मॉडिफाई डिफरेंट काइंड ऑफ फील्ड्स. सो फॉर एग्जांपल इफ वन फील्ड इज बीइंग यूज्ड समवेयर एल्स, तो उसके अंदर ये वाली इंफॉर्मेशन भी होगी कि ये वाली फील्ड दूसरे टेबल के अंदर भी यूज हो रही है, एंड सो it will be modified there as well, or it needs to be modified there as well. Also, it provides a lot of validation checking as well. So, आपके जब data entry के point के ऊपर there is certain validation that is performed by the data dictionary. If you have given the validation rule that this amount of value, only this kind of value will go into this kind of field, then that is checked at the data entry level. और डेटा एंट्री लेवल के ऊपर जो भी इंफॉर्मेशन चेक हो रही है, दैट इज बेसिकली सेव्ड इन द डेटा डिक्शनरी. सो वो डेटा डिक्शनरी के अंदर से वो इंफॉर्मेशन लेके आता है कि डेटा एंट्री के वक्त ये वाली वैल्यू के अंदर ये वाला इंफॉर्मेशन जानी चाहिए. Otherwise, it gives you, prompts you for an error, and it asks you to correct the mistake, right? So, in this way, your data dictionary also checks the data integrity, so that the data integrity is not compromised and it remains intact. Right. Next function that the DBMS provide is the functionality of data manipulation, and for that it requires a data manipulation language. A data manipulation language is basically a specific language used to access, modify and make queries. What are queries? They are simple requests for a specific kind of data from the database. So basically आपकी querying or reporting के लिए the language that is being used is the data manipulation language. and it is used for storing, retrieving, manipulating data as well as generating reports from that data. Right जी, अब दो तरीके हैं to make the queries from the database. One is query by example, which is basically a visual approach to developing database queries, and MS Access में for example मैं आपको दिखाऊंगी किस तरह use हो रहा है. Graphical user interface basically use होती है and you do a few clicks and आपके सामने वो आप उसको query कर सकते हैं जो भी information आपको चाहिए. And then we have again SQL, that is the structured query language, which is basically an integral part of the relational databases, and it consists of special keywords and rules. उनको use करके बहुत आसान English language keywords होते हैं that can be used to retrieve some kind of information or generate reports or manipulate any kind of data. And the structured query language also includes certain kinds of inbuilt functions as well. For example, आप उसमें average का function है that you can simply put in the keyword average and get the average of a certain number, maximum and minimum. इसी किस्म के और दो तीन काफ़ी सारे inbuilt functions हैं that can be used through the SQL. ठीक है, so your SQL basically is a very strong language which is used in almost most of the databases. तो आपके SQL use करके आपके relational databases में queries कर सकते हैं. Right, again ये इसकी example में हम आगे जाके MS Access में भी देखेंगे, लेकिन यहाँ भी देख लेते हैं. Right जी, here like I said that it's very simple. English language में आपका queries होती हैं. So, the first SQL command here, एक ये command है सारी, right जी. इसमें क्या कर रहे हैं? The keyword being used here is select, means we are selecting something. Again, if you remember कि relational database में जब हमने manipulating the data, when we were doing that, we said the first thing that we could do was selecting. So here is what we are doing, basically using that select command for selecting and eliminating the number of rows that we don't want. Right जी, यहाँ क्या हो रहा है? We're going to select the client name and depth. So these are the two fields that we're going to query. The client name and depth from, again this is the keyword here, from the table client. This is the name of the table. The client is the name of the table. Where? This is again a keyword that defines the criteria. Where depth is greater than 1000. So basically क्या कर रहा है? It's going to, this is a query that displays all clients an amount they owe to the company from database table client, or the client who owe more than, for the client, basically यहाँ पे F आना है, for the client who owe more than $1000 for example. ठीक है, तो इसमें वो आपको सारे शो कर देगा clients, client के नेम और उनके डेब्ट्स उन लोगों के लिए जो $1000 से ज़्यादा ओ कर रहे हैं कंपनी को. ठीक है, so this is again a very simple select statement use करके हमने selection की है. So this is the relational database में जो हमने पहली चीज पढ़ी थी, that was the selecting. This is what we have shown here with the help of the SQL command. Right जी. Next, another set of commands is this one. इसमें क्या है? We have the select, again the keyword. क्या शो कर रहे हैं? Client name शो कर रहे हैं, client number शो कर रहे हैं, order number शो कर रहे हैं. From two tables. This is table 1 and this is table 2. तो यहाँ पे अब हम क्या करेंगे? So this is basically the joining. Again, if you remember relational database में जब we were talking about the manipulation of data, so one of the things that we did was joining of the two tables, the information from the two tables. So we're going to join information from table 1 and table 2, table number client and table called order, where again we have the criteria here, the client dot client number. This means that client number is in the client table, and then order dot client number means the client number is in the order table. So this is basically आपका ये वाला client number जो था that was a primary key, and this here it is the foreign key. So आपके जो like we did in the supplier and product tables में हमने ये किया था, supplier ID supplier table में थी, supplier ID product table में थी as the foreign key. So we're going to match these two from this two table, and we're going to show the name and client number and order number from these two tables. So what is it going to do? It's a join command that combines data from two tables, client and order. New table will be created with the client name, the client number and the order number. ठीक है, एक new table create होएगा with the client name, the client number and the order number, while taking the information from two tables based on the criteria that the client number and the order client number from both the tables is the same. Right ji. Then again we have another command. This is called the grand insertion on client 2. This is the name of a person. So this means it's a security command that allows this person, certain person, to enter values or rows in the client table. So that means he has only the authority to change the values in the client table. So these are simple SQL commands की थोड़ी सी example मैंने दी थी with a description that defines के how can SQL command can be used to manipulate the data in a relational DBMS. Okay ji, now that I've told you the different functions of the DBMS, that is, it allows the data definition language, it gives you the opportunity of having a data dictionary, then it has the functionality of providing with a data manipulation language. तो ये सारी चीज़ें हम MX Access में भी देख लेते हैं, so that it's easier for you to understand कि हमने क्या किया अभी. Right जी. Here, as you can see, you have a table of the supplier. ठीक है जी, हमने क्या define किया? Supplier ID है उसमें, supplier name है, supplier address as well as a new city. यहाँ पे records कितने हैं? So these are the fields and these are the records. So we have 3 records for the supplier. That means, and this supplier ID हमने इसको auto number किया हुआ है so that it is generated automatically, and this is the primary key here. The supplier ID is the primary key in this table. So we have listed 3 records here. Also, we have the product table here as well. That means this product number, product name, price, manufacturing date and supplier ID are the fields in this table, and then we have 4 records in this table. Again, product number is the primary key of the table called product, and the supplier ID is the foreign key here. Again, supplier ID comes from the supplier ID from the supplier table, this one. Right ji. Now let me show you design view. Alright ji, here we have defined the field name, the data time, and if you want to, you can give the description here. So all of this as well as this, and this is the information about the data type that is being used here. So all of this becomes your data dictionary, that it contains information about the field name, and it also contains information about the data type being used as well as other information that is related with the data type. So all of this information again becomes the data dictionary. So here, for example, we've selected the data type as auto number because we want to automatically generate the number for the supplier ID so that it remains primary key. So that's why we have said index. That means yes, that means it has no duplicates. So it becomes a primary key here, and this key shows the sign that this is a primary key. Again, supplier name के आगे we have the text. That means it is a text entry. The value जो होगी वो textual form में होगी. The field size, you can change the field size here. That means the number of characters it can have. and there's again are different kinds of value that you can change and store in the data dictionary. And then again the supplier address and the city, all of this becomes part of the data dictionary. Product का design भी देख लेते हैं. Alright जी, here we have the product number. Again it's an auto number here because it's the primary key. Then we have the product name as text. Then we have product price as the currency. यहाँ पे हमने data type इसकी change करके currency रख दी है, right? Default value में हमने 0 दिया हुआ है यहाँ पे, so that if it doesn't show, so आपने वो blank नहीं छोड़ा हुआ है, you have given us a kind of a value there, either it's 0 or anything. And then you have the manufacturing date की data type हमने date time यहाँ पे select किया हुआ है, data time. Also we have selected the kind of format that is required, for example the long date here, right जी? So this basically defines that what kind of value will be written in that field. ठीक है, again आप यहाँ पे validation rule और validation text डाल सकते हैं, so that a certain kind of text or a certain kind of rule के accordingly आपका data enter किया जाए. So basically this again defines the kind of data dictionary that so MS Access में this defines the data dictionary here, right जी? Alright, so coming back to the same tables again, the product and the supplier table. Let's look at the relationship as well. Right जी, let's have a look at the relationship as well. तो यहाँ पे हमने relationship भी define किया है, product number, primary key, supplier ID is the primary key, and it is creating a one-to-many relationship. Access में जो many का sign है वो इस तरह आता है. So one-to-many relationship with the product. That means one supplier has provides you with multiple products here. So supplier ID यहाँ पे as it shows is creating the one-to-many relationship here. Right जी. Now we said that we could query different kinds of data information from these tables with the help of either we use the query by example, or you use the certain kind of structured query language. So let's create a simple query with the help of a query wizard, जिसको हम कहते हैं again that is your graphical user interface with the help of which you can make a certain query. Right जी. For example, we want to do a very simple query that is के हमने product table के, let's just say we want to have the product name number, the product name, and the manufacturing date from the product table. ठीक है, so that means again हम उसको selection कर रहे हैं. So for example, we call this query the product query. Simple as that. Product number, product name, and the manufacturing date of the product from the table product. A product table में actually we had the price and the supplier ID as well. लेकिन we have sort of remove those columns from the table, and product query में हमें सिर्फ ये वाली information चाहिए. So we only got what we needed from the table instead of showing the whole table. Right जी. अब इसके query में अब साथ में इसका हम ये भी देख लेते हैं that it has the SQL language उसके पीछे वो किस तरह है. So here we can see that इसकी SQL जो थी, this is what it is. It has the command select product number, means the product number comes from product, the product name, and the manufacturing date from product. So it is a very simple one. Right जी. Then we're going to create another query with the help of a query design. Right, so this is going to be a different one. इसमें हम criteria देंगे. So we're going to add both the tables here. राइट जी. फॉर एग्जाम्पल हमने क्या देखना है यहाँ पे, यू वांट टू लुक एट कि एक सप्लायर की कौन कौन से उसने प्रोडक्ट्स दिए हैं. सो वी गोइंग टू लुक एट द प्रोडक्ट नंबर फॉर एग्जाम्पल, and I'm going to look at the product name, for example, where the supplier ID is 1. ठीक है जी. अब हमने यहाँ क्राइटेरिया दिया है that supplier ID जिस प्रोडक्ट की 1 है उसका प्रोडक्ट नंबर एंड प्रोडक्ट नेम ले आओ. Now but as you can see, supplier ID was the primary key of the supplier table, and we want to get information from the product table. So because of the relationship, it's going to bring you the information. So let's suppose we call it the query 3. Query 3 हमारे पास क्या आई है? We have the product number, the product name from the supplier ID 1. ठीक है? Supplier ID, if you can see, अब प्रोडक्ट टेबल में अगर हम जाएं तो हम देखेंगे सप्लायर आईडी जिसकी 1 थी वो 2 ही प्रोडक्ट्स थे, नंबर 1 एंड 2. बाकी दोनों प्रोडक्ट्स जो 2 और 3 सप्लायर के थे. राइट जी. सो द क्वेरी दैट वी ब्रॉट हियर वाज कि जिस सप्लायर की आईडी 1 है, जिस सप्लायर की आईडी 1 है उससे रिलेटिंग जो प्रोडक्ट आपको चाहिए वो शो हो जाए. सो हियर वी हैव द प्रोडक्ट, दीज 2 प्रोडक्ट्स दैट रिलेट टू द सप्लायर आईडी 1. Right. So this was a very simple example of how you're going to query different kinds of information from the database, or different kinds of query because of the relationship, and because they are the relational database. So because of the relationship between different kinds of tables, you can get information from the tables while joining the tables, by linking the tables, and or you can do the selection or by eliminating the rows and columns. Right ji. Alright ji. Similarly, you can create reports in the same way. ठीक है. Either you go into the report design again, you can design your own kind of report के किस तरह values आएंगी, or you can simply go to the report wizard and, for example, you want to create the report on the query number 3 that we have created. So इसमें ये तीनों चीजें हम ले आएंगे. Next, it's going to show, give you an idea of what's going to show in the report. So it says that if you want to do some kind of grouping, again, yes, we want to do certain kind of grouping, so it has the supplier ID, product number, and product name. Again, it's going to show you okay, अगर आपने किस order में रखना है, going for anything. So going for a very simple sort of design. Right ji. So let's say we're going to view the report. So here's the simple report that we got from the query. Product report का नाम है, for example, we have the supplier ID, the product number, and the product name. So we have the supplier ID 1, और उसके against जो भी product name और product था वो sort of आपको एक tabular form में दिखा रहा है. So it depends on you कि आप किस किस्म की report generate कर रहे हैं. Either you want to generate reports on certain kind of queries that you've made, you can do that, or you can show the complete tables in the report, you can also do that. Right जी. So इसमें आपको simple different designs भी हैं आपके पास. You can create your own kind of reports कि किस किस्म का उसको design करना है, and you can show the information in a report form. Also, you can show different kinds of charts. You can show the analysis as well in this kind of MS Access report as well. Right जी. Okay, Let's move on to database administration. When you have a database, that means it's important to maintain that kind of database, and there has to be a very skilled database administration that is working behind managing the whole database. So it's expected to have a clear understanding of the fundamental businesses of the organizations, that if the organization goals kya hai and what are the business processes that are happening in the organization, the database administration needs to have a clear idea about that. And then again, it should be proficient in the use of selected DBMS. Again, a database management system kis tarah ka use hona hai aur kaun sa use hona hai, that again the administration needs to have a clear idea about it. Either they want to use the relational database, ya unki requirement is tarah ki hai that they want to go for the object-oriented database management systems. And with the help of this database administrations, they need to stay ahead of emerging technologies and new design approaches. कि आपके databases में कौन-कौन सी new technologies आ रही हैं, they have to be aware of that as well. So basically the role of the administration is to plan, design, create, operate, secure, monitor and maintain the whole database and the database management systems as well. So the administration that works with the users of the database, that who is actually going to use the database and what are their requirements, and also it works with the programmers that are going to help in creating the database के जो भी requirement है वो उसको किस तरह program करेंगे. So basically they're going to work with these two sets of groups. So then we have a database administrator in the administration that is responsible for defining and implementing consistent principles for a variety of data issues. So आपका database administrator basically एक responsible person है who is defining and implementing the rules and the principles that are related with accessing the data or manipulating the different kinds of data या data issues से related जो भी problems है वो database administrator deal करता. Okay, next we have the database applications. Means that database applications mean that now there are multiple database applications that are used to manipulate content of the database to produce useful information. That means ठीक है आपके database में there's a lot of data that is placed in the database, but how are you actually going to manipulate the data so that it becomes useful information, right? That happens with the help of searching, filtering, synthesizing and assimilating the data contained in the database. So there are certain kinds of tools and methods available to do these kind of things. Manipulating the data from the database is very important in different kinds of business processes, and it is used in multiple businesses because it gives you the required information that is needed. For example, it can be used in the property business. A property business में database, for example, इस तरह use हो सकती है that you have a whole database of the properties that are available, right? And then you look into the system and analyze the data that is available to actually figure out the best value of a certain property. So databases can be used for this. Again, database applications are widely used in the marketing for when you're doing the one-to-one customer relationships, that who are the customers, or अगर आपने ये product sale करना है, then how can you sell it to the right customer. So these kind of analysis and synthesizing and filtering etc. is again one of the ways of saying that the databases are being used in different applications. So businesses use databases not only for keeping track of the employee and customer records, but they also are used to make better decisions and run operations effectively. Right? Aapke databases jo hain, they're not only there to keep a track of the employees and the customers, but with the help of the information you get from the databases, employees can make better decisions and employees can run operations effectively as well. अब जो आपके applications जो use हो रही हैं database में, that consist of 2-3 items. That is data warehouse है, we have the data mining, we have business intelligence, and also web mining and text mining. So the first thing that we're going to do is the data warehouse. Now what is a data warehouse basically? That a data warehouse is sort of a huge collection of data, right, that stores not only the current data but also the historic data that is coming from the maybe the flat files, the Excel files, the documents. So it is basically storing that kind of data as well, of potential interest to decision makers throughout the company, right? So it's storing all kinds of data that would be in some way of potential interest to the people that are working in the company. So the data is gathered not only from the kind of small databases that are maintained by different functional areas. For example, it comes from the operational transaction systems, and it also comes from the transaction websites. अगर website के ऊपर transaction हो रही हैं, then it takes data from there as well, and it also takes data from the external sources as well. So basically, सारी जगह से data इकट्ठा करके it consolidates it, it sort of combines it, and the information takes data from different locations and makes them available for analysis and decisions. Right? The data warehouse also provides a range of standardized query tools, analytical tools, and graphical reporting facilities as well that help to query the information, to analyze the information, and to report the different kinds of information to the people. So basically, data warehouse has the ability to relate data in innovative ways. So because it has data from various locations, so इसका basic advantage ये है कि आप उस सारे data को किसी न किसी तरह relate कर सकते हैं, because it sort of takes the data from different locations, और जब वो flat files में या document से data लेता है या किसी और table से data ले रहा है, so it goes through a kind of a process that is transforming that data into the kind of data that can be organized and managed in a database. So basically it goes through the clearing up process like we did before. कि clearing up क्या होती है? For example, अगर आपका irregular, inconsistent data पड़ा है एक table में, so it will create, so for example, 2 tables, and it will link the 2 tables so that it's easier for you to manipulate the data and get the information from the data. Right, ji. So here is a graphical representation of how the warehouse works. Again, आपका data जो operational systems में से जा रहा है, transactional systems में से, flat files में से, other kind of data resources, as well as external resources that are. So it's taking from external sources as well. So different kinds of data जो है वो and this staging area again is sort of transforming this whole data into the kind of data that can be used in a database. It is combining together to go into the data warehouse. A data warehouse again, it can be viewed logically by the sales department, the purchases department, or the inventory and other kind of people. And then you can generate reports from the data warehouse, do the analysis from the information that you get from the data warehouse, and also do the data mining. We're going to do this analysis and data mining in the next lecture. कि आप database के अंदर से जब information लेते हैं तो what are the analysis and data mining used for. Then again, so this is the basic concept of a data warehouse. So then because it is a huge database, that means it requires a lot of storage space and it requires a lot of powerful computers to store that much amount of data, as well as techniques to change the historical data into the kind of data that can be stored in the database so that it can be used further. Then we come to the concept of data mart. Data mart basically is a subset of a data warehouse, ठीक है? जहाँ पे आपका data warehouse was having information about everything, having the data from every kind of operational transaction system, either it's working in the purchases department or the working in the marketing department, or it's working in manufacturing department. But on the other hand, data mart is a very specific it's area specific basically. So it contains summarized or highly focused portion of data about a specific area. And also it contains detailed information about that certain area. Data warehouse से ज़्यादा detailed information होगी, लेकिन it will be focused on a certain kind of area. For example, marketing and sales data use a certain kind of their own data mart to deal with customer information, so that it can have detailed information about the customers for the marketing and sales. Also, it is useful for smaller groups who want to access detailed data. Then data mart का फायदा ये है that it's constructed more rapidly and requires less powerful hardware, and it is constructed at a lower cost as well. So again, data mart does take data from the data warehouse, लेकिन उसके अंदर detailed data मौजूद होता है that can be used by a specific functional area or any kind of smaller group जो कि किसी एक चीज़ को फोकस कर रहे होते हैं. For example, marketing या sales को फोकस कर रहे हैं. So this is what a data mart is, whereas on the other hand, data warehouse contains information about everything. Data mart जो है वो एक specific area को cater कर रहा होता है. So basically, it consists of a scaled down version of the data warehouse. Right जी. So अभी तक हमने देखा है, we looked at the database management system. Database management system में हमने देखा the single user database as well as the multi-user database, and then we looked at the different capabilities of the database management system, that the databases provide you with the functionality of creating and managing the databases through the help of data definition language, and then it provides you the functionality of the data dictionary that stores the information, the background information about each field and each object that is used in the database. Then another functionality